We were just discussing during the break something with Mike Reiss. That is the 90-man roster limit. And when the teams in the NFL after drafting players need to be at it, Mike is finding out that answer for us right now. He is working on the answer for us. Thank you to whoever that was that tweeted you to remind us.
Definitely. So really the question is do draft picks before they sign their contracts count against the 90-man limit, or can you go over the 90 until the draft pick actually signs the contract? As I talk it out, my instinct, Beetle, is that they count right now.
Right now.
So the 11 draft picks would count. And then what you can do is sort of stagger your you have 17 undrafted free agents that you have agreements with. You might sign the first 11 and wait till the next day to, and so there's a way to time it out a little bit.
All right, so we'll try and get an answer on that. It's a rare, silly little thing that we probably have never given thought to before. So it's that off-season 90-man limit. When does that happen? But anyway, we'll get that answer. Mike's working on that. We ask because it relates to receiver, and there being a logjam of bodies at receiver on this team. So blurted out a little something before the end of the show yesterday.
So it's the best.
Maybe the team was soon moving on from one of those receivers.
You never know.
So.
But if you heard it, you heard it. But receiver is a spot, Mike, where they do now have, again, they've drafted another receiver. They're not all going to have jobs. We heard a report a couple of weeks ago that Kayshon Boutte was available in a trade.
Two different places. Adam Schefter had it in a great pre-draft column. I think our guy Albert Breer had something that he had Boutte listed as well. So usually when it shows up in two places, there's some smoke there.
And Breer was telling us about how they were trying to move KJ Osborne last season, and how Tyquan Thornton was gonna get some looks out there. And so I'm not knocking Breer. I'm just saying there's a trend there of this team,
Super Bowl.
of this team making it known that they have guys available at receiver who nobody wants. Like, yeah, no, that's great. Kayshon Boutte's available. Are you trading for Kayshon Boutte if you look at the Patriots right now? You're saying no. If he doesn't find a job there, if he gets cut, we'll consider bringing him in. He doesn't have a lot of trade value. Tyquan Thornton didn't have trade value. KJ Osborne didn't have real trade value. It's ridiculous.
And the only thing on that, Beetle, is maybe it's coming from the team. The only thing I would just leave open the possibility. His agent is Drew Rosenhaus, who's a great deal maker. Watching him work, the idea that he would say, hey, if you're putting together a list of players who, I've been asked about by teams, Boutte would be, I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's another plausible scenario as to how that gets out.
It's just that they've got all these receivers now, and so what do? How's it going to look?
All right. So
what are you hearing?
Let's lock in Kyle Williams, the third-round pick, right, out of Washington State. You don't draft someone.
Should I make a list?
Let's
this
do
feels
it.
Like
Let's list it out.
Right,
so you don't draft someone 69th overall, right, to cut him, or he's going to be on the team. So that's number one. Stephon Diggs. Let's put him locked in, and let's lock him in as being ready for week one because we know the money tied to his contract, right? So he's going to – I think that's a factor. Even if health-wise he might not be 100%, he's going to want to be out there. So I think that's a whole nother conversation. So that's two locks right there. Now I'm going to lock in Pop Douglas. I know that's maybe a touch point for some people, but I believe that in the Josh McDaniels offense, the slot receiver is a key piece, and I think Pop would be the number one guy there. So that's three. And I'm also going to lock in Mac Hollins, and here's why. And people really on the social media would push back on me on this one because they want to know why. Why would you – Mac Hollins, fifth team in 5 years. How could you lock him in? It's just that he does things that no one else in the receiving corps does, particularly being able to take down the safety on certain run plays, and he's just bigger, physical. So I think those four I would lock in, and then it comes to, all right, what does five and maybe six look like? So I put Kendrick Bourne. I think financially you got to look at what that is and does he fit? Jalen Polk, wake up, this is, I do think it's make or break time for him. And then who else do I got there? Oh, Boutte. who we put on there. I think he's in the mix, for one or two spots. And then Javon Baker, I feel like, has a long, long, long way to go. And it's tough for me to see a spot for him right now unless something turns around. Did I miss anyone, guys?
No. And I think that's it, yeah.
What do you think? Push back on it. I mean, what doesn't
the kid from Eastern Washington that broke all of Cooper Kupp's records.
Exciting slot receiver. The undrafted class, I think they feel pretty strongly about this undrafted class.
Oddly.
Yeah. So yeah, I would put him in as if you're looking at those one or two final spots, maybe there's a surprise in there because we know Josh McDaniels, the way he runs his offense, right? He might be more inclined to want 4 receivers on the field than maybe 2 tight ends. And so maybe that opens the door for someone like that.
If he were to legally go through a process, and it's wishful thinking, but I would like to see him sue the
sign.
I would like to see him not sign and sue the NCAA.
He shouldn't have
go back.
He shouldn't have came out.
Because I think in the NFL, players don't have the opportunity that exists in other sports. It exists in baseball where you can get drafted and say no thanks. In the NBA, you can declare for the draft, you can talk to teams, and then you can go back to school before the draft happens. You could say, you know what? Went through the process, talked to teams, had like this flirting couple of months, and now I'm deciding to go back, right? Don't they allow that? Do I have that right, McCone? They can go back to school.
In the NBA?
Before the draft happens.
Yes, you can declare and come back.
You can declare and undeclare and go right back. And you have a chance to talk to people in the league during that period of time. There's nothing like that in the NFL. So once you're in that draft, you're it. You can't go back. You get drafted. Your rights are now with the league, and you can't choose to go back to school. The NCAA loses on everything they go to court on these days. They would probably lose on this. And he's got a case in that if he goes back and has all the NIL money, he's making a lot more than what he's currently able to make in the NFL, and he didn't have a way to know that prior to last weekend. He couldn't have known. Couldn't have known that he was going to go 144th overall. So now he does. Now he sees how little it will pay and how he'll be buried not only financially for it and penalized for it, but he's going to have a really hard path to becoming a starter in the NFL now. It's been made a lot more difficult for him, as opposed to the opportunity to go back, play at another school, stock go up, go through the process again, have learned from the process and all the mistakes he may have made, and a year from now go back through it as a better player and a more prepared person to go through that process. I would love to see it happen, and I think he's got the ability to do it. He's got the publicity. He's got the resources to make that happen. And so I'd be really interested to see if he'd be willing to do it.
And is this not the same, but maybe a little similar to, let's say, like past players who went to like the USFL, like Steve Young I'm thinking about. Like what, tell me.
Zoe mentioned a good one when we mentioned the Toronto Argonauts putting Shedeur on their list.
Go to Canada maybe.
I did not know about Warren Moon going to Canada for 6 seasons and winning 5 Grey Cups. I didn't know that.
And then coming to the NFL.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Different time, though, right? So I don't know that would still play the way it did 45 years ago when Warren Moon was playing in Canada.
Yep.
So I don't know. There was no NIL, and there was no ability to go back to school then in any way, shape, or form, or just the ability to make money in college football. So the money was probably the same for Warren Moon in the NFL versus Canada at the time, right? But Canada gave him an opportunity and a chance to prove himself. How does Shedeur Sanders prove himself now? How does he do it? How does he prove that he can climb up a depth chart and work hard? Because it's easy to say, hey, you put your head down, you work hard, you study the playbook. I mean,
see, the problem is,
do you go from fourth quarterback frequently? I know everyone's going to throw Tom Brady at you, but nope. Does that happen a lot?
No,
do guys get appropriate opportunities a lot?
No, not guys at his position, because he's been put on this pedestal. He's been groomed from day one down at Jackson State. His dad and his whole staff took him to Colorado. He's the guy. There was zero competition. Everything was built around him. Now you find yourself in Cleveland. You're sort of an afterthought 5th-round pick. They already got Gabriel. They already drafted him. They wanted him ahead of you. Flacco's there on year 23. You got Watson there. Like, they got other guys. It's not like he's going to be in this constant rotation of equal reps to where you could compete. He's going to be the 5th guy taking snaps.
But isn't this similar to call it like a Joe Milton thing from last year? Play well in the preseason or get your shot in a game, and then you're maybe But it is.
But one of the reasons he dropped is everything that comes along with him. That you don't want that Tim Tebow effect in your locker room. Meaning, it's open season. You go in as a press guy. You're a beat guy.
Yep.
Hey, let's go talk to Shedeur instead of the starter. That's the worst thing you can have in your locker room. And this is why he dropped. It's one of the reasons he dropped.
And so maybe, Beetle, the way to get it back for him is to almost go underground, for lack of a better term, and be just put the football first. All that other stuff goes away. Don't be in the locker room.
Be Cam Ward.
Don't,
Yeah.
And hope that let's see if he can do that. And then going back to our receiver thing, just to make sure that I didn't leave anyone out. So I had locks. I mean, you guys didn't really push back on me on that, did you? I mean, I had locks. I had Williams, the 3rd-round draft pick. I had Mac Hollins. I had Diggs. I had and Pop Douglas as my 4 locks.
I'm with you on it all.
And then my bubble
Booty and
guys,
Polk on the outside looking in.
Jalen Polk, Keyshawn Booty, Javon Baker, and Kendrick.
All right, so let's
Of those
assume
4.
they're carrying 5 receivers. We're
Yeah.
going to go with that.
Yeah.
We don't have the Matthew Slater Memorial 6th receiver anymore.
No.
It's 5. So I agree with what you're saying. It's Williams, it's Diggs, it's Mac Hollins, and it's Douglas. And again, this might change. You might change your opinion when we get to July or August, when we see things happen on the field. But right now, I'd agree with you on all 4 of those. And I would say that if there's a 5th that you're going to rank as having the best chance of being on the team, who is that player?
So
To me, it's Kendrick Bourne. I know. The coordinator likes him.
Yeah. I know Zoe would say Bourne. He's pretty high on Bourne.
And I think on that one, you got to look at the contract because that's always part of it. I think Polk would have an edge based on draft status, right? Because cutting a 2nd-round pick, most teams generally want to give that a little more time.
Yep.
But he's got to show something. What are you doing behind the scenes to put yourself in the good
He's got
graces?
the best hands in the sport. So, I mean, he's got that going.
He was in
for him.
bounds, by the way, on that catch.
And
He
then
also had a
and
great touchdown that was called not a touchdown.
And on Booty, I think a lot of people might be asking, well, how are you putting Booty on the bubble after all his production?
He's the best of the young guys.
I think the key on that one will be what does it look like in the new system, right? And is it the same? I think the old system, it worked for him, and he was the best that they had. This one's all different, so you got to sort of put that aside and let's see, what it looks like under McDaniels. And then Zoe, you mentioned on the undrafted free agents, just to put a name to it, it's Efton Chisholm of Eastern Washington.
Great name. Efton Chisholm.
Comes out.
Damn near killed him.
I hope I said it
Gotta
right.
give him credit
I
for
hope I
that.
said it right. Highly productive slot when you see like the slow 40 time, but like super quick, almost like Wes Welker, Danny Amendola profile. Could he be someone to watch in camp? You just throw it out there.
Okay, update on the 90-man roster situation. Okay, if you're curious about these small little details. The Patriots are currently over 90 as of last night, despite making cuts yesterday. They cut 5-6 guys yesterday afternoon. Yeah. Okay, 6 guys got cut yesterday, and they're still over the 90. Vrabel telling you last night they were at 91. So, right?
Yeah.
They're at 91. We also know they have 17 guys that are undrafted free agents that they're interested in or working on deals with. Once those guys get signed, they count against the 90. The rule is, Mike, you've learned, you can never be over the 90.
Can never be over 90, and I think being one over, that's including the 17. So they're factoring that in.
Okay.
They're factoring that in, Beatles.
So technically, they're not at 90. They've always been under 90. If you count the 17 guys, they would be over 90, which means in order to get all of those guys signed that they have in principle agreed to deals with, once they come in, get the physical, put the pen on the paper, someone else has to get cut.
that if that math is correct, that's
Okay.
exactly right, Beetle.
All right.
And the
so more
reason-
cuts would be coming.
And that's today. You have these agreements with these undrafted players. They still need to come in and take a physical before they sign their contract, and then that gets sent to the league, processed at no time with all the contracts that you've submitted to the league. Can you be over 90 players?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have our answer. No one is over 90 ever, which is why they got to move guys. So they had a little bit of space, drafted 11 guys, freed up those spaces with the 6 cuts yesterday. Okay. Now we have our answer.
Good hour.
Good job, Reiss.
Good hour. Good hour.
Yeah. Do it more often, Mike.
Love being in with you guys.
All right. I don't know when we'll see you again.
Look forward to
Maybe this weekend.
Yeah, ACDC.
Maybe.
Maybe we'll do that. Good shows in Foxborough this year.
Yeah.
So that'll be
What are the others?
Be a good start. We got Kendrick Lamar.
Isn't Coldplay?
Coldplay, Kendrick Lamar,
Some
George
country.
Strait, and
Morgan Wallen.
Morgan Wallen, Chris Singleton,
Stapleton.
Chris Stapleton. I played with Chris Singleton.
Linebacker, Arizona.
Yep.
The outfielder?
Very good. First round pick.
That's good.
No, the football player.
Oh, man. All right. Mike, thanks for being here.
Great
See you,
stuff.
Mike.
Dino.
Appreciate you
Thanks,
as
Al.
always.
Thanks.
Hey, if you like that clip, check out more videos from Zolak and Bertrand right here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.